Okay, looks like we should be live. Yay!
Hello, people watching.
People watching, people watching.
It's a bit like that, isn't it? Okay, just while we're waiting for people to come on, I'm just gonna share it to a few places.
Okay. Are we tagged?
I'm not sure if you're a bit quiet, actually, Robert. I turned you down before because we were having a bit of...
Yeah, I can speak a little louder, but are we tagged?
No.
Okay. I'll post it.
You can't, for some reason, you used to be able to tag people and they changed the way that you do it. So no, we're not. Hi, everyone. Just bear with us. I'm a bit rusty at this. It's been a couple of weeks. Okay, what am I doing? Sharing. Share it too. Anyone feels to share while we're just sharing, feel free.
Yeah, I took my dogs on a wonderful nature walk this morning, barefoot, which is just so brilliant, which is the first day in a little bit because I cut my feet walking barefoot kind of arrogantly with family. I was like, oh, I always do this. And then there's never a problem. And then I got a little cut this one time. But yeah, now it's all healed up so I can do it again.
I'm the same way. I've been walking barefoot everywhere since I was a kid, so my feet are pretty tough. And you got to remember, it's like your dogs walk barefoot everywhere, right? So it's kind of like following in their step.
Yeah, it's crazy with my dogs though, because they pull on the leash, and if I let them off leash, they just run like crazy. So it's like walking barefoot. I'm like half trying to focus on the ground, not step on anything, too pointy, and then the dogs are just pulling me. It's intense, but it's fun. Yeah.
You're an adventurer.
Now, I just want to check with everybody watching. Are our levels kind of okay? Are we roughly, not precisely the same level, all of us, but can you hear us all? It'll take just a second or two to get a reply from that. Robert is the one with the professional mic.
Yeah.
So it takes a few seconds for them to get the message and then a few seconds to respond.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Thank you, Marie. Okay. Well, I am delighted to be introducing to everybody today. I have here with me, I'm going to turn my camera around in a sec because, yeah, I'm going to turn my iPad around. In fact, I'll do that now because it kind of looks like you're here and I'm like looking over there or there and looking over here. So I am absolutely delighted to be welcoming today to Love Speaks Love, Robert Evans and Vivien Moon. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey.
And I am going to do our little heart-to-heart connect. Oh, your mama's here. Your mama's in the house. That's to Vivien, by the way. Okay. So let us all join our hearts together. Of course, they are already joined together, but let us just make ourselves consciously aware of that connection between all of us. And let us breathe love into our beautiful hearts. So let's all take a few breaths together, breathing in love and breathing out love. And as we bring our awareness to our heart space in the center of our chest, feeling that alignment between all of our hearts. And I'm seeing a beautiful circle of light around the planet. As all of our hearts join together, all of us here on the live, or on the replay, or on YouTube. Connecting our hearts to the heart of Gaia. Feeling ourselves being held in the diamond, the crystalline diamond heart of Gaia. And feeling her love for all of us. Feeling Gaia's love moving into every cell of your body. And just feeling your body lighting up and letting go as we all connect. And as that love spreads around into every cell, and connecting all of our hearts now to the heart of the sun. And to the heart of Source Creator. And just feeling into your body, just feeling into whether you may have any places of resistance into your body. And just allowing any resistance to just flow away. And I'm just aware of the Trinity energy and that I'm just seeing the triangle between us, the triangle of light. And I'm just going to hand it over if there's anything that either of you two wish to add at this point before we open our eyes.
The ancestors are here with us, supporting us. I'm just seeing them all behind us. And they're beings of light and ancient. And they've been with us the whole time. And they see what we're doing. And they understand that the challenges before us are for humanity and for the healing of the ancestral lines and for the ancestors. This is a very important time. It's always an important time, of course, but at this moment, they're giving me strength and they're sharing their support, and I felt the support of everyone watching as well. Thank you.
Beautiful.
I'm seeing like a drop in a pond blossoming out into the lotus flower tree of life, expanding and connecting with many, many, many souls energetically. And these connections of all of the different beings we work with, the ancestors, as well as the elementals in Vivien's field, unlocking different things in me. It's so beautiful. Yeah, very much with the Trinity between the three of us, between the Earth, the Sun, and the Central Galactic Sun, the Father, Mother, Christ, almost like it's like three Trinities, almost like connected, and then another one on top of that, another one on top of that. It's like collapsing into one heart field.
Beautiful. Thank you both. So if your eyes are closed, I invite you to open them and maybe just take, a sip or two of water as well. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Robert, you might want to bring your mic just slightly closer to you, just a tiny bit quiet. I could hear you then, but just a tiny bit quiet.
You know what? I was on the wrong mic. This mic should be better. Is it working?
I think it's still the same.
I can't hear you. Very strange.
Can you hear us now?
Now I can. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good.
You got it?
Yeah.
So while you're just sorting that out, I just want to kind of explain how this particular Trinity came to be. So Robert and I have been talking for a couple of weeks, and I invited him to be on the show maybe last week, but I didn't end up doing one last week. And I was then kind of feeling into there being a third person. And it's interesting because Vivien, I've thought about inviting you onto the show, and I assumed that I would invite you on with your mum, with Eva. That was kind of where it, where I thought I would place you if you came on. But I had a dream, and it was last Thursday, I think. Yeah, it was Thursday night. So we might have been coming on Thursday, and I'd said to Robert, maybe tomorrow. So I've been sleeping in the garden in a tent, and next door's dog was barking really loudly. So I went inside for a little wander, let's say. And when I, before I went inside, I'd read your message that said, let's do it tonight. And I wasn't so much feeling it by that time for Friday, and I fell back to sleep. And I had a dream where you two were both in the dream, and it was like the neighbour's house where the dog was had turned into a backpackers, and there were heaps and heaps of people in there, and there was this massive music room as well. I didn't tell you that. And Huna Flash was there too, who does pop into my dream times occasionally, which leads me to say I'm sure there's a dragon link as well, because Huna are very much associated with dragons. And also, so that kind of told me, you two, yes, of course. And after I had that dream, I was like, yes, that's amazing. That works really well. And I didn't realize you two had already been connecting. And interestingly, in the neighbours, because there I was dreaming it was backpackers, and there's just two people living there, two people and a dog. But when I woke up the other morning, there was loads of tents in the garden that I'm sure weren't there when I went to sleep the night before. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's turning into a reality. They're turning their little house into a backpackers. They weren't, in fact. The tents were just there drying, long story. So there we have it. That is how it came about. This was, this was a dream time connection. So it feels really awesome to have you both here. And seeing as I mentioned dragons, I know Vivien, we've talked about dragons before. Robert, is dragon energy, is that something that you connect with?
Yeah, I have throughout the years. It's been very potent for the last, I guess, couple months. Lately, actually, yesterday in the New Earth Grid meditation, quite a bit with dragons. Yeah, I connect with dragons. I love dragons. Yeah.
Dragons are incredible allies. They are us, but they also have this potent magic. They often come to me when I need assistance, or when I'm not willing to ask for assistance, or when I summon any kind of magic. Generally, if I speak light language, there's often a dragon involved, and I love it. It just feels right.
Yeah, I've definitely had dragons come through when I speak light language, deeper tones. And at first I was kind of shocked by it, But then I kind of, I just realized that those deeper tones have so much to do with creation and, you know, kind of like those frequencies, like something about like the bassiness and like vibration with creation. So yeah.
Yes.
And to me, that's what the dragons are all about. You know, it's they really embody that creation energy. And in my mind, you know, anybody who does grid work, they're working with dragons. You know, I feel that the dragons are really key in the creation of Earth originally. You know, I kind of feel they may have been the original beings. And I strongly feel that I've got at least one dragon aspect. But I can definitely, like, once I put you two together, I was like, dragons, dragons. I could like just feel that dragon energy really strongly. So I wanted to, my favorite question at the moment, and Robert, I'll go to you first because you're not muted. What is lighting you up at the moment?
Going for my highest expansion. Yeah, so just in everything I do, you know, leaping and then leaping again and leaping again, and you know, really just going for it with pretty much everything I do, sharing vulnerably, but also deeply listening and doing so, and just, you know, really doing my best without holding myself back. And I guess lately there's so much emphasis on the root chakra with that, which I feel like is something I didn't pay as much attention to in the past. But yeah, lots of emphasis on like essentially now this wants to be grounded into my physical life, right? It's not just going to be spiritually, it's not just going to be the way that I express, but also, you know, my living situation, the things that I do, you know, for money, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that is a very big theme in my life at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Vivien.
What's lighting me up right now is it's similar to what Robert said. Yeah, the infinite possibilities. Knowing that everything could change and, you know, just under a minute, the relativity of time, how we can be inside of a dark night of the soul and light a spark and instantly everything's on fire with inspiration and healing.
Mm.
I've found that spark in some really difficult and dark places recently. So what's lighting me up, it literally is gentleness, but it's like the strongest form of gentleness and compassion and innocence and trust that I'm bringing back into my body and into my soul right now through these experiences.
Beautiful. I want to ask you both as well, because we were having a conversation about, you know, who am I? Often when I get ready for the show and I ask people to just share, you know, a few words about themselves or sentences or a bio. So I know you've both been really feeling into this in the last few days, and thank you for your words. I did put that on the post earlier. But I just wondered if you could share around that, like, who are you? Just kind of introduce yourselves in whatever feels right to kind of to share.
Yeah. So it's so interesting writing a bio like that. And it's actually easy for me to flip into the flow state. So that's what I did. I was like, I don't know what to say here. This is easy for me. I'm just going to flip into that and write, which is what I did there. And I guess that's really just an analogy for my life, right? I really love to flow in all different kinds of things, in the way that, you know, I speak, I rap, I dance, I write. I love that creativity, and I feel like it's a very strong connection, you know, for me in source to explore that. And I get so much, you know, and me and my higher self, it's through doing that, it's just been connecting us deeper, deeper, deeper over the years. So yeah, that is such a big thing that I do. And then as far as a lot of, you know, more of the magical elements and, you know, I would say I'm very much going through a big initiation around, so much. I've been going through this initiation for years, but there are levels to initiation. So very much deepening a lot of my initiation when it comes to just all kinds of work. And it's a brilliant time. It's a very brilliant time to be alive. Super grateful.
True, true. True, true. And I love the way you have so many different forms of expression. And is the dance, is that something that you've been doing for a long time, or is that?
So yeah, the dance came first. It's been so many different things. I did my sister did Irish step dance, and I was used to like play around when I was little, like faking doing it. And then I did Taekwondo, and I watched America's Best Dance Crew on TV when I was a little kid, and then I mimicked the movements, and then it just always built, and I never lost it. So it's just always been a thing that it's progressed deeper and deeper, but it's turned more into the chi, the light language, the energy movement, rather than just, kind of like a looking cool sort of thing over the last few years.
That was the first one of your lives that I watched, Robert, was of you dancing and flowing. And I was like, oh, what is this? I like this expression. This is very fun, and I'm feeling it. I'm just like enjoying your enjoyment.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I feel like it is, we can really bridge a lot of the gaps, for people's awareness on some of these things through expressions that aren't as spoken. So like it's very, it might be hard for some people to connect, right, with like talking about ascension, or even in the rap, or like light language, like initially. But it's like, if I can essentially move and flow my soul, and it just becomes this palpable thing that they really feel inside of their body, and they can instantly, they know something about it, right? So I just love that. I love to play with these different forms of expression, because I feel like it helps to unify and allow people to connect in with these multifaceted sorts of ways. And yeah, hopefully get something out of it, anchor, and do it themselves. That's the biggest thing. I really, it's not all about, one person looking cool anymore in this world. It's about everyone, becoming their true embodied transparent selves. So it's like, expression is a great way to do it.
Robert, have you ever seen I'm not sure which of the shows it was, but there was a guy called Dancing Tommy. I'll send you the video. He's an Australian guy, and Australia's Got Talent. It was that show that he was on, and he was local to Byron Bay, where I used to live in Australia. And you would see him, I was going to say walking down the street. You didn't see him walking down the street. You see him dancing down the street. You see him dancing at the beach, on the beach, and dancing into the sea with like a suit on. He would dance down the supermarket. He'd have these huge earphones on, and such a creative expression in his dancing, and just would let the music dance him. Just let his body be moved by the music and the dance. And he'd had a serious accident, and it was dance that kind of made him better, like made his body better after he was like hit by a car. So yeah, I think you really enjoy that.
Yeah, there's something about the gosh, I don't want to like take up too much of Vivien's space, but I'll just share this. There's something like, I'm seeing people right now moving essentially, and it's almost like you can see the light like streaming behind them as they dance, right? Like they're walking down the street, and they're creating like this essentially like flow pattern, almost like they're like this lit up river, right? Walking through the world, creating through the world. And there's something about that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be dance, but like essentially you can embody the flow, right? You can embody that. And there are these simple, subtle ways to tap into it. And through doing that, it really does connect you with so much of yourself. And yeah, so like people, they just come out, when they do that, like you just see them, and they feel better. And I feel like it's just part of being human, that maybe a lot of people got all locked up in their bodies and kind of lost. But it's like, the more we all can dance, especially when it's inappropriate, like the better. You know what I mean? or deemed inappropriate. It's, you know.
It's like when you're dancing in church, when you're feeling the spirit. Okay, it's not like church, but it is like church. It's like our church. It's our version of church that is actually authentically expressing spirit through our bodies for ourselves rather than for the sake of a narrative, picking one narrative, right? I don't know. It feels like, yeah, that the rawest of human expression, and a lot of that is the shamanic embodiment of animals, and it is like child's play, but that's what children are really doing when they're doing that. They understand more than we could possibly understand as adults because we've departed from it somewhat.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad you brought that up about animals, because I don't really think about animals when I'm dancing. That's an awesome, that's a little boom for me, that one.
And
over to you, Vivien.
Hi. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm cupping my mic. You mentioned it was a little windy. Is the wind still really strong?
I can hear your voice fine. I can't hear the wind at the moment.
Yay. Okay, so my name is Vivien Moon. I am a being of wildness, of almost like the natural order that exists within chaos is that flow. So I guess I'm a being of flow myself, but I've just shifted and changed through so many different self definitions through my lifetime. I've had so many ego deaths. But overall, I tend to identify with who I am on a soul level. I am the all, of course, we all are, but I feel that I am a goddess. I feel that I am an earth angel. I know these things about myself because I remember, and we can all remember. That's the thing, is I am that because I remember that and I embody that, but I also sometimes struggle to embody it. I am myself. I am my ancestors. I am this lifetime and all of the other lifetimes that I've lived. I have the capability to channel source, and so do we all, but I also do this as a professional psychic. I've worked on that for 5 years. It's more than 5 years though. It's lifetimes. It's aeons. It's all of the templates that I chose to work with in this lifetime. I am my archetypes, but I'm also not. I'm far beyond them. Like, I could tell you that I'm an Aries with an Aquarius moon and all this, and that would be true, but I am also all of the zodiac signs of the entire wheel. The wheel. I am the world tree. I am an integral part of this planet. I was incarnated on this planet for this whole time. I remember. And I think that's beautiful. I feel that I am a part of this earth. And yeah, connection to the elemental realms. I am the elementals. I see no difference between myself and them. I am the angels. I see no difference between myself and them. With the particular angelic energies that I embody have been cherubic. Like I was shown how I was a cherubim, but that I also ascended into a seraphim, which is kind of insane considering that I'm in a human body, and that's like also a part of my self-definition. It almost, I'm the balance between that high energy and the energy of like even some of the lowest frequencies. I feel I embody the full spectrum of frequency. And it's a little, I'm intense. I'm a lot. And I love myself in that. I recognize that potency is here for a reason. And I recognize the role of that potency on the planet at this time. It is that acceptance and love of the full spectrum of divine love of the all.
There was an amazing little distortion. I don't know if that was something everybody heard, but to me, your voice got a little bit distorted at one point there.
Yeah.
And you could hear your voice, but there was like this lower distortion coming in at the same time.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if that was something that anyone else heard, but it was kind of like your dragon aspect coming through.
This is what dragon is. dragons ascend to the highest and descend to the lowest. They are the all, but they are spiraling through that all. They are creating it as they go along. They're eating it and digesting it and blowing it out as fire. They're transmuting everything. They're the best transmuters I've ever met.
There's something that I often recommend to people about you know, the different ways that we can release energy. And my favorite breath sound to do, because I find if I'm releasing and it comes through my voice, it often hurts my throat a little bit. Like when you're really releasing hard, I often find it gives me a bit of a sore throat. But there's a breath, and I call it the dragon breath, because it's kind of silent, and it's I don't know if I can just do it now, but I'll you know, that kind of like hiss kind of sound that gets, you know, you have to pull your belly in to make it. But that's what it always reminds me of, like dragon breath. And it feels like fire. It feels like I'm breathing fire.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference in the energies you tap into from the way that you exhale. Like that kind of like it's like moving so much or yawning versus like I notice like moaning like that you know, when people go like it really like flips into this tantric sort of energy, and it's like a bit, sometimes I don't want to go there, so it's like, but I always surrender to the soul, right? I call it like soul breath. So like essentially I'll just allow whatever wants to flow to come through me versus like force some sort of specific kind of thing, you know?
Have you found some, and this is to both of you, have you found some potent, like some light language activations feel very dragon-like and they feel very releasing in their nature? Like, you know, when you're just trying to get the stuff out, and sometimes it will, you know, what I did then will turn into a light language activation. And it almost feels like some of the frequencies, they need that power, they need that fire, they need that force, they need that rage behind them almost to kind of really those energies in. Does that make sense to you?
Sometimes it makes things happen really fast. Okay, some of these energies you can channel through light language, they can cause you to release a lot all at once, and then a lot will collapse in front of you. It can create tower moments that create like really quick enlightenment into like huge expansive knowledge, but it comes through like the most difficult challenges sometimes for me. If I'm like, screw this, I want to heal like right now, dragons will bring through some energies and be like, are you ready for some intense like loopage? Like, are you ready for this loop to smack you in the face? And usually I'm like, do I have a choice? I would rather do this than back down. I always have a choice, but I would rather do this than back down. And it like, you need that intensity, especially for release. Like what you're talking about is like, it is acknowledgement of what we've been through, of what we've actually been through, you know, and how we actually feel about that experience. Here kara ni stini odia na dia kikini again na dia tistini anadia ora atatistini nera ataki kora akatia tatistini neriati. They're just saying it's like wherever you are at that point in time, and your body, the creation of your body, and that it is the body speaking is essentially what I think they are saying.
Yeah, sometimes the rage does come out of me too, you know, and it's intense when it happens. I feel like that was more in the past. As I've unlocked these sorts of things and done the deep emotional healing work, it's become less of the rage, you know, and it's more like you can move through it within a few minutes until you get to like the big root thing, and then it might take like a day or two, but you know, like, yeah.
And how would you move through it? Like what would be your way to kind of, you know, release, to move through it?
You know, it's interesting. I've been doing a lot of work with you know, like Morgan's different systems, the things that she's created. So I did a lot of the zero pointing, and then I kind of created my own version of octahedron work where I just immediately set up an octahedron, pull up my higher self, and we just start collapsing things, like just collapsing programs, diving into storylines, basically just opening up like different pieces, whether it be in my DNA, it be in my body, it be in different areas. And we just essentially, with full intent to see all of it, because if I hold back, I don't get to go there, but I go there fully, and then essentially intend to collapse into love. So it's incredible how simple it can be when you're in such a powerful energetic field like the octahedron. And I've noticed that I don't even need the octahedron anymore. I can just do that throughout my life. Like just with the connection with my higher self, it's just become like I can just start doing it, like driving down the road even. But yeah, so it's interesting in a way, because I feel like, you know, I was kind of just flowing through my life, just diving into tough emotions in the past. I didn't really know what to do with it. And then a lot of those systems really like helped me build like frameworks so I could like run. And now it's just kind of like something comes up and I immediately, like I feel any distortion in my field, I'm just like, oh, what's that? And then I just start diving into it. I'm just like, what is that? Like I literally did it on the trail this morning. I did it yet, you know, and it's like all throughout the day, constant clearing. But you know, it's not always that simple. Sometimes you run into the thing that you have really struggled with that you don't want to see, and then you know it takes a little bit, but you know that it. I feel like with the energies present, it is a lot easier to get more done, right? With like the energies of the sun and the frequency of the earth, like it is just it is not as difficult to move through things as it used to be, and it's also my frequency, but yeah. That's kind of
Did you want,
taking us off subject from the dragons, though.
I was just wondering, Vivien, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah. So I want to say that I've been able to do basically what Robert is talking about. I've done that a lot myself, but I've also recognized that during this time in my life, I have definitely slid back into a lower consciousness. Lower. I mean, it doesn't mean worse or whatever. It just means feeling more separated from source and having to just bring that light that I had before and that knowledge that I had before that doesn't go away into those circumstances, into my own personal hell, right? Because it was that I had to kind of descend into my deepest wound in order to have my deepest transformation. And I did it in so many ways in my life as of late. And it's actually like, I recognize that it's not an accident. And through that time, I have been working to remember, oh, I can summon these beings at any time that I want. And this will help. Though sometimes before that is able to happen, I have to fully feel through all of the emotions. And the best thing that I can do is feel them through in a safe space. Whatever it is, whatever is characterized as a safe space, sometimes it is a place where you can be really loud and nobody will judge you, or they'll be like, okay, you have to leave. You know, it's like, it's not, you find that safe space where you can be that way. Environment is important, is what I'm realizing, is that you can even have like ascended into certain levels of consciousness and then be in a certain environment and notice yourself kind of becoming more like your environment. So and also needing to release on that basis of, you know, getting more sensitive versus getting less sensitive, being able to see the ether around me and see the construction of what all of this is, right? All of these kind of difficult environments I've seen recently. I think it's important for me to understand, which is why I've been kind of like, which is why I've sent myself here from the ether, which is why I sent myself into this spectrum of vibration that is my life.
Yeah, I think that dip down into the lower conscious, you know, ness sort of states, it does assist, right, with our journeys and our ability, like our work that we're doing on Earth, as well as like we've all embodied certain things that we're very strong at, right? but then we've fragmented in order to incarnate. So like there's parts of us that we haven't been as strong at. And so I guess, yeah, I don't want to oversimplify it and make it sound like I just have everything mastered. There are definitely areas of my life that have been coming up, you know, and I talk about the root chakra. That's a big one, right? Over the last few months, there's been so much with my connection to the feminine, right? And so much with just like purifying myself sexually, right? To the point where like, essentially, God, I feel clear. Thank you. You know, but like there was a lot, you know, of stuff to do there. And so, yeah, it is important, right, to acknowledge that, yeah, you know, sometimes we do have to go to those lower, darker places to really like find what's trapped there, you know, what the thing is, so we can bring it up and bring it, essentially bring this, like, it's like this part of me is not up to speed. The rest of me is like going up here. It's like now this part has to be brought up to speed, but in order to bring it up to speed, I have to go there, you know?
Yeah, it's like you have to meet yourself where you're actually at versus where you think you should be at. But there's so many places you could actually be at all at once and have it be totally okay, you know? Like it's not like when you're going into these places of elevated dimensions and feeling clear and all this, feeling like you're in heaven, right? Heaven means clear. Like feeling like you're in those heavenly vibrations, that's not a bypassing of your lower self. That's an acknowledgement of your higher self. It's an acknowledgement of your connectivity to the all. And then, you know, you kind of descend back down into it, because that is kind of it's like the natural movement of energy, I suppose. Like, yeah, and you are taking what you've learned from that state of clarity into that to heal it and then back up again. And it's definitely not like this linear progression of like, we just go from bad to good, you know? It's like we don't, in therapy they teach like, no, you don't go from like feeling bad to feeling good. You go from essentially feeling a baseline of depression and hopelessness and all of these things that we had to go through, like pre being awakened, to being able to do something about it. And then you basically ascend into having way more tools and being able to trust yourself in these situations where it's like difficult.
Yeah, and I'm getting the word bridging as well. That feels kind of a key word in this. It's like we're not just that pure being. We are that pure being, but we're also this earthly being with earthly stuff. And we're kind of like, just, yeah, you did a really good thing with your hands before, Robert. That kind of that kind of action, I think it was, you did that really
Yeah, it's like seeing yourself like you're a waveform moving through time, right? You're actually a bunch of different waveforms, but if you were to sum yourself up, and so I've noticed before every rise, there is a dip, right? So essentially, I have to go into what's in the way before I can go up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you I'm getting to ask about resistance. I could hear some little voice in my body, and I feel I'm generally not that resistant. When I know that something's happening, I can be just like, right, I'm going with this now, and not resist it. But I could hear this little voice somewhere in me going, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to. And I was like, I still have work to do on that. I've not fully like located, you know, just what that is inside me. But anything you want to share about how you know that you're in resistance, and you know what you do about that?
I mean, I just start avoiding everything. Actually, it is that descent into self-destructive patterns. And as soon as I notice them, I'm like, oh, okay, there's something I'm avoiding. You know, it's very simple. And it's been a journey of catching myself faster. But yeah, that's really the main. It's also dissonance, right? It's the body. You feel the dissonance, you feel the discomfort. Something's off, especially between me and someone else. It's like if I find a judgment, I'm like, there's something here, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So how I deal with resistance is I've had a couple of different modes for this. sometimes I will try to push past, like my chaotic aspect wants to just keep pushing forward, right? And so what I have to do is remind myself to slow down, and I say, time is on my side. Because for me, resistance can be a lot about time, because I've often felt I need time to work through this, or I have no time to work through this, or it's not time yet, and yet I need it anyway. Like all of these different kinds of things, or being in resistance to divine timing, and that I am divine timing. It's my vibration towards the thing that I'm experiencing. I ask myself, okay, I think I want something, but what part of me doesn't actually want that, and why? I also will, actually just surrender to it. And then as it speaks through me, I actually hear its voice, and then I can kind of dissect, well, is that actually true? Like if, for example, if I have a resistance to being seen, I might hear a voice in my body that says, oh, nobody loves me, I'll be rejected, or whatever. And it'll speak through my body. I'll let the resistance speak. And I'll be like, wait a minute, that's not true. And I'll provide myself with evidence of why it's not true, and remind this part of me. And also be like, okay, well, what do you need? What do you need? And then sometimes I'll get a surprising answer, like, oh, I just need to be alone, or something to that effect.
And does it often feel like, to me, it often feels like the inner child, which could be the same as the ego. It could be, you know, the ego representing itself as the inner child. But to me, it is often that. And I noticed when I voiced it that I don't want to, I wasn't hearing it that high in my head, but it came out as like, I don't want to. It was that real kind of like, oh, little girl, you know, come here, tell me what it is. It's that kind of resistance that, you know, sometimes that little part of you just wants to be held, just wants to be loved, and just wants to be acknowledged. And I hear you, Vivien, on sometimes it's like, whoa, just slow down a little bit, like this is happening too quickly. I used to get this image of of like, how can I describe this? Of me being pulled, so my heels are making these lines in the sand, and that's the resistance. It's kind of like I get that visual of those deep trenches from that resistance of moving forward, like just trying to hold back as you know, you kind of being swayed. I won't say pushed, but swayed forward.
You're leaning into it a little bit. Like, sort of just testing the waters, or I guess experimenting. What is bringing up this resistance? I'm curious about, like, where in your body do you feel it?
I would say solar plexus. And that's an area that I've been working on, it feels like for years. You know, when I was in Australia, maybe out of solar plexus and sacral, it would be a little bit more sacral. But especially since I've come back from Australia and I'm in the UK, it's almost always solar plexus. And whatever else is going on in my body, it feels like it needs to link with the solar plexus. So even if it's throat, it's like, yeah, but there's some solar plexus stuff linked to that. You know, I feel we hold fears there, but that's kind of where I feel that the resistance. And I got this image yesterday when I was working on my solar plexus. It was almost like, this is a visual, so it's a bit hard to describe. It was like the solar plexus was being pulled down, like there was this heavy weight pulling it down, and it was almost like it hadn't caught up with the rest of me. It was like there was this lead weight kind of like almost pulling the whole of the energy of the chakra down. So, and this isn't complete work yet, I'm still working on this, but it was kind of like, you know, going into this and just lifting the lead up a little bit and just being aware of it and present with it. And there was something big happened. I'll have to check my diary actually, because I can't quite remember. There's a missing key as to what I was working with that. Same with you too, like solar plexus?
Yeah, often in the solar plexus. Often when it's fascinating because I have been aware my whole life that transparency is like a key to access. Like the more transparent I am with reality, the more transparent reality is with me, right? And so aware that whenever I feel a block in transparency with somebody, that means that there is something I am rejecting, denying, right? Not taking full responsibility for, essentially just like owning, right? And, you know, oftentimes though, it comes in the form of triggers, right? With other people, like I'll feel triggered or I'll start judging them or something like that. And so it's been a thing for me to navigate that and over the years progressively break down all of those different judgments of people. Um, you know, ultimately it was always just me judging myself, right? But to really like get to that sort of level of awareness around that and then to realize to transmute it into love. But like, yeah, so essentially usually resistance comes up in a form of like something comes to my mind and it's like nah, I don't want to go there. Yeah, that's basically it. It's like I'm judging, so I'm like, oh, I don't want to go there. I've had like some sort of traumatic experience around it, whatever. And then it's like, okay. And I always feel it in the solar plexus. That's really why I'm bringing it, because it always is there. And I feel like it is just this denial of, you know, my power, my sun, my energy, right? My ability to like fully be who I am, like, and they're reflecting that to me. Um, and you know, and so I've done all kinds of work. Sometimes I've shared with people, I've been judging them. I've shared with a couple of women, likewise. I was, oh my God, they held such great space for me. It was amazing when that happened. And it was like, it's amazing how you'll magnetize people who'll be the perfect mirror for what you need, and you'll be the perfect mirror for what they need. So like, they've been like, oh, I don't care. Thank you. You know what I mean? But like, uh, that's been like a thing that's happened a couple times, but like essentially just like breaking it down to this point of where, you know, I feel at least right now like I can be fully transparent. We'll see if anything else comes up. But and if I can't be in a field of transparency, I know I'm resisting something. Yeah.
Thank you for saying all those things, because I think people don't realize that if they're transparent, that then their reality will shift and that things will become more transparent. I'm witnessing that happen in this conversation, right? Because phew, I'm currently releasing resistance to speaking about my actual experiences, right? Because I was like, oh, if I speak about certain experiences, others are going to be resistant towards those experiences. I don't want to trigger other people's resistance, right? I want to help open people up. Whew. So I guess like with the solar plexus, right? It's like being able to digest what's presented to you, whether it be someone else's resistance or, you know, some kind of trigger, a difficult experience, or watching somebody else go through a difficult experience, especially with self-definition about like, okay, where is actually this like border to what I call myself? What is the limit? What's the actual limit of my power, of what I'm able to do with the solar plexus? What am I actually able to enact, and how fast can I do it? What part of myself do I need to call upon in order to do it? Like, do I need to summon a dragon? Do I need to go to the elementals? Do I need to go to the angels? What's the most appropriate action here? Do I need to just ask the universe for grace, the part of me that's infinite, that knows what to do now? Recently I've been looking at this Psalm 23, You know, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you know, I am guided by, I guess, the Lord or whatever it is. But it's like the Lord is that solar plexus energy. That's the Lord inside of you. That's the God inside of you. And it is like your ability to kind of like stomach what's presented to you and kind of like move through any resistance that you have towards it, which is the next stage of empowerment. It's the next stage of, for you or anybody else. We are being presented with things that seem to oppose us sometimes, but they actually are us. And so as I've had these ego deaths, I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death, you know, the hood, and I'm seeing people in the most destitute situations. And I now have this knowledge in my mind, oh, that's actually me. That's actually me lying there. And what do I do now to use my power to heal myself so that I don't have to be in that situation anymore? What do I actually do to face that and stomach that and transmute that? That's the solar plexus. That's what the solar plexus has been about for me recently. And it has been incredibly, I gotta say, like wonderful in a lot of ways to have the breakthroughs. It's the breakdown to breakthrough. And yeah, it's like having the guts. Having the guts. I don't know if you guys have any response to that at all.
Yeah, I love that. Two things that you said there kind of pinged me about, you know, even that expression, I can't stomach that. It's not necessarily an expression that I use, but it's a really interesting one. And yeah, having the guts to do that. I don't feel like I've heard that expression for ages. Like I've heard more having the balls to do that, but I haven't heard anyone say having the guts to do it for a long time. But yeah. And I think all three of us are going through a period of stepping up more at the moment. Like I think all of us are, and that's bound to bring up some, you know, some solar plexus stuff if it's still in there. And it's, you know, stepping up to be seen, stepping up to be visible. I actually just created a new YouTube channel yesterday. I did a different video the other day that I haven't shared yet. I think, did I tell you too little? No, I'm linking it to YouTube because I did this all yesterday morning, early, like as soon as I woke up. And so what I'm feeling to create is really exciting me, like, you know, and that's where we feel the excitement as well. It's that same spectrum of fear, excitement, that they're on that same spectrum. But that's often where I'm feeling it. So anything that there is still in there or that's more urgent, I'm sure there'll be more stuff still in there that will come up at a later point. But I think a lot of us at the moment are feeling that it's that whatever it is about being seen that is yeah, kind of coming up.
Yeah, so much power on the other side of stepping through that door, you know, but then there's the block in front of the door, you know, whatever reason you're standing at the door, like waiting to open it, right? And it's interesting because there's the dissonance, right, of like, I feel this immense power. It's like pouring out of the cracks of this door, you know, but at the same time, I'm holding back and this door essentially wants to flood open. And that's kind of how I see fear in a way, right? Is it's like I've put up a wall, but the energy just, it's pouring through the wall. And once I open it, I step out right into it, then essentially that energy just boom, like I you know, it's like Super Mario eating the mushroom, you know, like you just level up a little bit, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Every door you open, you know.
Vivien, jump in.
Oh my god, I turned off the kid totally invisible from Super Mario eating the mushroom. That's so hilarious. I just love that analogy so much because it feels so accurate, because we're literally going through gateways. We are the gateway, right? And it's like this door that you're putting up is like the energetic block in your energy field. And it's like, you know, when you tap into it, that it's a product of your own consciousness, of your own thoughts. And it's like when I go into these tunnels inside of my psyche, I'm literally stepping into the origins of my energetic block, and I'm looking at it and I'm having to remind myself like, oh yeah, I put up this wall, and on the other side of it is all of this amazing golden light frequency that is just like begging to burst through and unite with me again.
And it's like the wall or the door is you know, it's this thing. There's all this light that's like la, and the door that we've put up, it's like just tiny. It was never doing anything anyway, really, except causing us distress in our bodies.
Mm.
I'm seeing like Harry Potter, like the first Harry Potter, when they're trying to get the key to open the door, and there's all the keys flying around, and they're attacked. But that's like how that's what you think it's like, right? Like you think that everything doesn't want you to open that door, but it's fascinating because it's almost like it really is the attachments to the old you, right? That are, I guess, those metaphorical keys, right? Or, you know, those things that are essentially like trying to keep you from unlocking your highest potential. It is the old, right? But then on the other side is the new, right? And it's like on the new, there's all kinds of things. There's the new earth grid. There's, you know, your higher self. There's all these higher, you know, beings, higher versions of yourself, right? Forward in time. They're just like, yes, open the door, you know? And it's almost like you just forget, right? Because you play in this game of like the quote unquote demons, right? And it's not to say that it's, you know, there isn't some truth to like the existence of that, but like it's just, it's old, it's lower consciousness that doesn't want to grow, right? That wants to stay stuck. And I see it so much in the world. I see it in so many people's eyes, right? Like they want life to just be what it is, it just be what it was, right? Like they're just like, oh, let's conserve, like conservative or what, you know, like let's conserve the world as what it used to be. But it's like, no, like this world is meant to expand infinitely, and you guys are putting up blocks, you know?
It's that containment. So I feel like all of these little keys are like parts of ourselves that we fragmented when we descend into chaos to create this world. And so we get ourselves back in a different context, in a different light. We can use that experience in a different way. It's like just source is like constantly recycling itself, right? But those people who hold the resistance, it's almost like if they weren't in that state of resistance, then the containment wouldn't be there for where we're at, we're at, right?
They're helping initiate me on my path. They're testing me. They're poking,
Yes.
prodding me. Yeah, it's all that they're like shooting into me. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, because source is asking you, are you really going to let other people's opinions limit what you feel that you're able to do?
Yeah.
Robert, when you said conserve before, I got like, I went from conserve to preserve, and I got an image of a pickled gherkin in a jar. Like when you're trying to preserve things, it can kind of, you know, shrivel up as well.
There's no chi, and the energy is not flowing in the shelved food, right? It's not connected with the earth in present time, right? Like the energy, it's not flowing the same as like, you know, like if you just picked it fresh off the ground and it's just like, oh, this is delicious and nourishing instantly. Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because plants, they don't, I see them out here growing strong and continuing to grow, but like they are literally out here through all of the harshest weather conditions, and they provide a home to all the plants, or sorry, all the bugs, all the birds, all the squirrels. They are just unconditionally loving and ever present and always absorbing the sun and always just breathing and meditating. I love plants. And I feel like when I eat a plant, I kind of take on a bit of that consciousness myself. I'm able to like understand what it means to be like a plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that happens. You know, whatever we ingest, it's kind of living on through us, and that's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, becoming the plant, not just the plant becoming you, but you becoming the plant as well.
Yeah, we're merging. We're literally merging.
Yeah. You know, and also, it's so interesting because sometimes I want to share something and then I like hold back. I'm like, why do I do that? You know, and then it's always like the confirmation comes and it's like, go there. Like source always tells me when not to go somewhere. I always get the dissonance in my body. Right. And so it's like, if I could just stop occasionally flipping out into the mind space saying, should I go there? I would just stay in the flow clearer, long, you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't be this thing because I can just have faith that I will know if I'm not to go there. So like that's an important thing. But yeah, it's interesting how I'm seeing this. So it's like we're magnetizing essentially all these things that are helping initiate us into the person that we essentially intend to be, right? Like we're on this hero's journey or this path of becoming, you know, the I am presence that, you know, has all these awesome flavors and things about it, right? Ascended Master Rob, Ascended Master Vivien, Ascended Master Denise, right? And it's like, but the thing, you know, is we're magnetizing these in, and this is where so many people don't realize, right? Especially when you're unconscious, right? Is that you think you're constantly getting attacked, right? You think you're constantly getting attacked by all these beings, by all these people, by all these things. But, and that there's some truth to that. But at the same time, it's like you're magnetizing it in, right? As a way to highlight things to you that you haven't owned fully, right? That you haven't fully taken ownership of, like mastered in your life. And so I see it like it happens on all levels, right? It happens in the self. It happens with the thoughts. It happens with the emotions. It happens with the body. It happens, you know, with all of that. But then it also happens in the energetic field. It happens with, you know, different multidimensional beings and things like that. And it's almost like the people who really fight against the negative ETs or whatever, like they're always fighting against the negative ETs. You know?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like what came to mind when you said that. You were like, you think all of these things are attacking you, and then in my mind I was like, yeah, and they'll keep attacking you until you stop thinking that they're attacking you, because the reason why they're attacking you is because you think they're attacking you.
Yeah, but it's like it's the ownership, right? Because like
Yeah.
you have fully, because if there wasn't a hole in your field or a wound there, there'd be nothing for them to poke into, right? And so it's like, and it's the same thing with humans. It's the same thing with the people in our lives, right? It is the part of me I haven't owned, you know, because otherwise this wouldn't even be a conversation. I'd just be freaking mastered of this shit. And so it's always a bit of a refinement every single time someone comes in or something comes in or I, you know, whatever, right? It's always like, okay, what haven't I owned here? Versus like, look at what you've done to me or look what you're doing or, you know.
Well, it's like during eclipse season, right? Oh, wow. So what haven't I owned is like a question that I keep asking myself, because I've been noticing how eclipses tend to bring up energies from the past, right? Like, wow, I feel like I've already lived this. No, I've already lived this pattern. But it's like a collapse of the subconscious into the conscious realm and into manifestation. So when you look at it, you're like, okay, wow, I still have a lot to own, because the energy has like really like coursed through my life in this way where it's like I'm collapsing the karmic wheel through noticing all of these. I'm literally hearing a siren in the background, right? It's like, I don't mean to scare anyone when I speak about these things. But if you really understand what's actually happening during an eclipse, it can be a powerful time to like acknowledge and own things and get empowered through that. It's just that you have to continually remind yourself. And it also helps for me to be reminded by others when I'm in a space of feeling like, oh my God, I'm such a baby, you know, like that's how I feel sometimes when all this stuff's coming up. And I feel sometimes I even get feelings that I didn't think I was still feeling about myself, like I'm inadequate. I have zero worth. I'm literally worthless. These types of feelings will come up, but then I'll have the part of me that I've cultivated that's stronger, that's like, no, wait, you're actually just going through something really, really hard. Actually, all you need right now is just to own this part that feels worthless as being okay, as being acceptable, as being like, okay, I understand why you feel that way, but also, do we have to keep telling the story the way it's been told, or would you like to come with me on a new journey? Would you like to shift with me?
Yeah.
Beautiful. And loving, not just owning, but loving those parts of ourselves as well. Can we love the one that is feeling that? Can we love that part of myself that is, you know, blah blah, whatever it is?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Sometimes when I share things that I feel like are a bit more profound, sometimes I judge myself. I'm like, do you deserve, like, are you really worthy of saying that? You know what I mean? That's an area for me. Worth has been such a theme that I've had to work through over the years, right? And like, it's fascinating because I get shocked by how worthy I am sometimes.
Mm.
You know, I come in contact with people and like it's like I'm just in my world, right? Constantly leveling up, constantly healing, you know, and it's like, yeah, I have my moments of ecstatic bliss and everything is amazing, but then, you know, I'm resolving a problem the next day. I'm resolving another thing. I'm growing. I'm getting better at this. I'm always trying to so we spend so much time, I think a lot of people do too, focusing on the negative, right? What am I not taking ownership of, right? And I at least know that it's like when I do come in contact with the people who reflect to me the positive, right? I almost like it like, whoa, like, you know, like, oh, wow, like I've actually like grown a ton. And it's fascinating how that happens sometimes. But then there's other times, I don't know, is that like a level of mastery thing? Or is it like, I guess it's a fear of being wrong, right? Like a fear that like I could say something that like would be wrong. Yeah, it feels very childhood like me being wrong. Like not wanting to be wrong about, you know, things and like affect people in a negative light. Gosh, that's coming up for that is
I get that all the time, and it is that like what is wrong is relative to the situation. It's not necessarily that things are wrong always, but they're just, it's like what, there's a key for a specific lock. Whatever's coming through that you're getting, it might fit into a different lock, but it's like if it's like not quite the right key, all we need to do is adjust. Everything's a discernment and adjustment. So right and wrong is a judgment, and I feel like whenever I feel wrong, I feel like I've either made a mistake or I've offended someone. There's like a feeling in my chest associated with it of pain, and like I feel like this need to be right just comes from a need to be safe and a need to be accepted. But if we were able to be wrong, like as a practice, as like a way of life, like, oh yeah, no, I'm okay with mistakes being made by myself and others. I'm okay with others being wrong. I'm okay with myself being wrong. Being wrong doesn't mean to be bad. Then maybe we wouldn't fear rejection so much. Maybe we wouldn't fear you know, death so much. Like if we could just like be like, oh, we're allowed to fuck up, and that's a part of the learning process.
yeah, it's so interesting because on a walk this morning, I was really going there, and it was so much to do with my family, and it had so much to do with getting spanked actually, which only happened a few times, like a handful of times, My parents were interesting. My dad would actually send us up to our room and then be like, I'm coming. And then he never came, which is like one of the most
Phew.
terrifying things, you know?
Mhm.
But so he only ever spanked us actually a handful of times. But there is this like mother father wound of not wanting to upset, right? Like the
Mhm.
parent or the external, not wanting to not wanting to be wrong, right? Not wanting to
Mhm.
make the mistake that's going to upset the world. And
Mhm.
I noticed that very much in me earlier yesterday, you know, because I made a video and, you know, I kind of talked about some of that like family stuff. And it was just like, it's so fascinating how deep those wounds can run in so many people that like you can be decades later and it's just like you're so afraid to be wrong, but it's just this little piece. It's just like I was punished for being wrong, therefore I can't be wrong. And it's not like ego in the sense of like I'm gonna overpower people and like force my rightness onto that. That's something I worked through years ago. It's more so like this fear of like, what if I were to do something that would be negative or harmful or I don't know, you know? um yeah.
For the sake of being open and authentic, I will encourage you to be wrong and make mistakes. Whenever we're talking, if it happens, if it comes up for whatever reason, if you feel you've slighted yourself or someone else in any way, you can always just say it.
Well,
I
yeah, that's the fascinating thing, you know, and I guess it really goes into the negative ETs comment that I made, right? Like people constantly attracting negative ETs. Um, because so when it comes to the history of humanity, there's certainly a level of empathy to have for everything that we've gone through. And I've noticed sometimes like I've even like known things to be true within myself or felt things to be true, right? Like the idea that you could alchemize any situation into gold and that even going through hell, you know, could be alchemized into just an initiation for the soul because the soul is infinite and is so much longer than just these whatever 30,000 years or aeons, right? Whatever this time that we've been in this descent. And so I've had that awareness, right? And, you know, essentially I've chosen to alchemize it. It's a choice, right? And you could also choose to see it as we're victims and this is a terrible thing, right? That's a choice as well. And they both have different trajectories. But if you choose this one, right, it's like a rocket ship, right, into like this mastery, I guess I see. But at the same time, I feel like it is important. And this is where I get super sensitive is like, yeah, but people also have really been through a lot of shit, you know, so much shit. And so I recognize how hard it can be to hear that kind of stuff, right? Like I'm getting like the analogy of like Jason Estes, he says congratulations when the trigger, it's like congratulations, you know. It's like,
Congratulations. Yeah, I
yeah,
know exactly. Yeah, like there's no way to possibly sugarcoat it. There's no way to explain it away. There's no nice words that make the experience better, even if we know it's the truth. It's just still really effing difficult. Well, last thing I want to say, because I actually do have to jump off. I love you guys so much, but I really do have to go. Um, is I was speaking to my body about this topic. I was like, hey, like body, what are you thinking and feeling right now? And it said something to the effect of like, man, like way back when I was initiated into this form, it was created that I would go through this algorithm of chaos until I became something unrecognizable to myself. And and like almost like a thank you for being here and accepting me in this way, but also like remember that I came from you and that you forgot that I was you because you literally threw me into chaos and I became that chaos and I am that chaos. And but the chaos has this magical order to it. It has this incredible form that we get to take. And so just the whole experience of like what you're talking about of like getting to go through the initiation, this is the story that I chose to go through because of what would be yielded in the long run.
yeah, like a giant dip before a massive rise. like a massive, and you know, it's interesting being free will beings, because it's like, well, why not do what feels out of alignment if you don't have some sort of context, if you don't know better, right? Like you're just supposed to know, like, no, like you're gonna a traveler, an explorer of consciousness, and some being comes and says, hey, give all your power away to me, and you're like, oh, look, you're bigger than me, I'll give all my power away. You don't know better, you know, like why not? Until you have that experience and you embody the wisdom around that and you say, oh, I'm not doing that shit
Yes, we
again.
have to remember the wisdom that's innate to our being, but it's like we set up these experiences in order to be able to do that. Wisdom happens through experience. And like, just I want to say more, but all I gotta say is I love you guys. I gotta go. Please keep talking about this after I leave. I will watch the end of the live replay. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I
We
love
shall
it.
do this again sometime.
Yee. Sending you etheric hugs.
Feeling them.
Bless you. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, the self-worth, that kind of takes me back to solar plexus too. I've always felt self-worth, self-confidence, self-esteem, all the self stuff, self-belief. I've always felt that those were part of our power, you know, part of our embodiment of power. And it's interesting, I was going to ask Vivien, she said she felt it in her chest at those times, and I would probably feel it in my solar plexus. But I think some people, when they feel fear, they feel it in their heart, maybe because their heart shuts down a little bit. But I feel there's such overlap anyway between solar plexus and heart. Like, one of the areas that I've been working on the most is kind of from here, you know, where you've got the V there, like that point, which is that real overlapping point. And we have a massive nerve bundle there, like the plexus bundle, nerve bundle is there, which I think is partly why there's so much solar plexus stuff going on at the moment. Partly to do with this, the nervous system and the clearing of the nervous system, because this is a big nerve bundle there. I don't know if might be one of the biggest, but I might have that wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, because the dissonance, it comes up in the associated chakra with whatever the problem is, right? So, you know, and it's interesting because I don't feel like I always felt like my root. Maybe I'm feeling my root more now. I've definitely, you know, like the sacral is very alive, right? Solar plexus, very much like ever since I woke up, it was like, first it was like, whoa, things are going on in my solar plexus, you know? And, you know, the heart, and then I guess, yeah, there's always, you know, there's just the different things associated with them. I've found the solar plexus in a lot of ways to be that ownership of power. And it's interesting you sharing that. Like, I wonder, right? Because I see you as such like a powerful person, right? Like if you're fully owning like all of that kind of like, I guess, you know, we can always play with these words and she's a goddess, or but you know, like that goddess energy, like you and like your full power, like out and like going for your highest trajectory constantly, whether that be sharing, right? Like I guess I wonder, like with the wisdom that you've embodied over the years, like do you feel like I guess like do you feel like sharing that, like owning that fully, like is like a thing that like you can do, or is it like something maybe holding back? Yeah.
I'm not sure how to answer that actually. And although I've done a lot of work, there still feels like there's a lot of work to do on that. Yeah, ask me again. Let me just see what drops in.
Yeah. So I guess, do you feel like you've reached a point where you can truly share the wisdom that you've embodied, like in the biggest, like most expressive way, like you feel like you can? Like, do you feel like you deserve to, like you?
I think I have to give that a yes and a no. There is, I think, because I'm questioning so much as well, what I felt I knew before, I'm like, is that really true? Because there's so many different levels of knowing
Yes.
too. I'm like, do I know that? I can share what I thought I knew, but I'm not completely sure. Like, I'm just feeling into everything. Everything that I thought I knew, I'm feeling into more. Yes, on certain things. And that's like the new YouTube channel is to do with earth energies. It's to do with connection to earth, connection to all the plants. And I'm feeling really comfortable sharing about that. And that was what was inspiring me yesterday. Like, I was writing down all the videos that I want to do for this. So yeah, I have to give that a yes and a no. Yeah, because I'm not there yet. Like, there's a lot that I have embodied, but there's a lot that I've still got to embody. Does that answer you? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. And it reflects that back to me too, you know, because it's fascinating in a way. Like my awakening has been very rapid, and I very quickly dropped systems that felt dissonant. Like, I would find that they were dissonant, I would just move on, you know. And like, so I just refined, honed until, like, I spent years walking away from lineages too and just being on my own until I found things that like truly did resonate, right? And then those are the systems I've just been flying with, right? But like it's interesting how essentially, like, we've left this inverted matrix, right? And but there is magic of the inverted matrix. There's like actual like things built into it, you know, like. And so it is interesting how we are all on these journeys of discernment of like, well, what is still relevant in this true organic reality, right? And I guess that really is in the feeling, right? It, you know, that's the only way we really can discern, you know, is like, do I still feel this? Do I still feel resonant with this? And, you know, like dropping what doesn't. And so yeah, I guess, you know, part of it is responsible, you know, not to just go wild and share all, you know. But then at the same time, it's like with all sharing, there's the transparency and then there's the deep listening. And those are two things to like really embody so that you can master your ability to share. Because otherwise you're just chaos if you're just sharing every single thing, you know. But then at the same time, like, you also don't want to be too far in the listening, because then you'll never say anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and Delia's put that was a powerful question linked to the holding back you mentioned earlier as well. And it's true. It's like, how much am I holding back on this and not wanting to step forward, and how much is that it's, you know, not the right time to share or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, it's interesting too, because we are anchoring the new in, right? And we're anchoring the new in through things like this, right? Through this conversation, through our expressions. And, you know, anchoring isn't just in physical Rob, just this me. It's also in you. It's also in the viewers. It's also in Vivien, right? It is this collective merging, right? And we, like, in a field of transparency, we can get so much done, you know. And, you know, perhaps I think we've just, you know, we've done so much work on reclaiming the feminine that, like, you know, that deep listening and feeling that, like, essentially, like, we've flipped into not really owning or going for the masculine always, not always, you know, like really sharing, really expressing. But there's this thing about, like, I guess we can merge all of this new in through expressing being it, right, through all of this, and do it on a much grander scale, right, than just individuals. And I feel like it's important. I see so many members of this community who, like, they're so brilliant on so many levels. And, you know, every single time I communicate with them, every single time I connect, every single, everything is gold, you know, even, you know, and this is an interesting thing too, right? We had the conversation throughout this about our triggers, about the distortions, right, that we've been working through recently. But our sharing that was gold too, right? We were just willing to own up about where we were truly at, you know? And so, like, yeah, I feel like it's important, right? For like the more we can just like step out and be like, here's what I got. Here's the stuff I've really got wisdom and gnosis around. Here's the stuff I might struggle around a little bit. You know, like I felt a little insecure when, you know, you guys were really going in on dragons. I'm like, yeah, I've had experiences with dragons, but maybe not as much as you too. You know what I mean? But like, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like,
Yeah.
this is just opening that up more, right? And the
Mhm.
more we can be real about that, the more we all gain access, you know?
And there's a real beauty in the vulnerability. Like, you know, you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable in saying that, you know. So much, I see it so much more these days, people being like, actually, I'm feeling this. Whereas, you know, a while ago, a lot of us just wouldn't have said that because we were so scared of the repercussions from that. But it's really beautiful. And I see this, like, I won't say completely across the board, but it's way more across the board than it used to be, that people will be like, actually, this is a weak point that I've got at the moment. And not being afraid of saying that, not being afraid of being judged, not being afraid of being abandoned and unloved, because I think that is often, you know, that's often the root of it. It's the fear of the love being taken away.
Yeah. Also, this idea that I would lose my credibility, right?
Mm,
That if I'm wrong in this point, now people are just going to see me as wrong.
yeah.
Right. Or if I'm off in the, or this just, I don't have mastery, but it's like, it's such the, it's the Jesus Christ distortion. Like that's everybody be perfect. And if you aren't perfect, we're going to rip you down. Now, they even rip down this quote unquote perfect being, right? Like in the story, right? And we can all play into, oh, was that the real story? Was that, you know what I mean? But like there's such a giant metaphor in that crucifixion, you know, of like essentially people are projecting, right, their own inadequacies, and like we're doing that as well. And I guess it's kind of like this awareness that, what if we could all just look at each other and say, everyone incarnated and fragmented, and everyone has superpowers and everyone has weaknesses, and I really want to get to know you. I really want to get to know your superpowers, and I really want to also share mine. And we can all just merge and just essentially embody this one field of humanity consciousness if we allow that, where we all essentially just, everyone, like the pieces are all here, they're just scattered, you know. It's like, can we just do that, you know, versus like this disconnect of like, I'm so afraid of being wrong, I'm so afraid of, you know, what if I flip into something that's wrong, what if the thing I say is wrong, you know, like it's like, no, just like she said,
Yeah.
like Vivien, let yourself be wrong. That's beautiful.
And not wanting to embarrass myself, you know, by being wrong. It's like, yeah, you've really brought up a big one there about the not wanting to be wrong. And I'm reminded at school of not wanting to put my hand up to answer a question, partly because I didn't want to be seen, but probably bigger than that was not wanting to be wrong.
Yeah. It, you know, it reminds me of the intimacy of a relationship.
Mm.
Right. Like, and it's so interesting because, like, you know, people really want that relationship. Well, what do they really want deep down? They want that mirror. They want that intimacy. Like, they want that depth. Like, yeah, there's some sexual stuff, but like beyond that, right? Like, once you get past whatever addictions or whatever, you know, like is in the way of that, like, it's like, no, I want that intimacy. But you can have that intimacy with the world, you know, and the world will love you for it.
Mm.
so much. People magnetize in, like the more I share intimately, the more people because they know me. And I think like everyone are beautiful, you know, like when you really get, every single soul is beautiful. Yes, the person might have all kinds of other things running in their system that might be problems, but like once they share that, like I can get over that real quick. It's the lies that make it so uncomfortable. It's the denial. It's the, you know, it's the judgments. It's the, you know, and I can even get over that now based off the work I've done, but like, yeah, just be real. People love you for it.
And we're so moving into a point where we just have to be transparent and real, because you can't not be, because anyone will see it anyway. You know, the only person that we can kid in that is ourselves.
Yeah, no, especially with these energies coming in. I mean, like, we're gonna, like, the more you hold on to this idea of a perfect version of yourself in the world, like, the more that's just gonna get ripped to shreds. And like, everyone who does that, they're gonna get exposed, you know? And but it's like the sooner we can expose ourselves, like, it's what's you can't tear me down when I'm honest, right? You can't tear me down when I'm fully, like, it was interesting. My mom was a little like freaked out about, you know, like some of the energy work I did. She walked in during activation thing I was doing. People were talking about light language, and right, it was the frequency of the room was crazy freaking high. And she just walks in right in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. It's like really weird circumstances, and she's just like, what, why are you doing this? And then the next day we had a great conversation about it, and I essentially, like, it was like there was the choice of, like, at first it was like, I need to leave now. Like, I've been planning on moving out. I was like, I need to move out right now, right? I need to get the hell out of here because I don't mesh with them. But then it was like, no, that's not it. And then it was like picking apart her and, like, you know, her levels of awareness or whatever. And you just don't understand this type of work. And it was like, no, like, that's not it either. What it really was, and I had to realize this in the moment, was me taking full ownership of, yeah, I do light language. Yeah, people do light language. And this is a part of what it's not all of what we do, but this is a part of what we do. And we do all kinds of different magical stuff. And you might think it's woo, you might think whatever about it, right? But it's just, it's part of what we do, you know? And, like, just essentially just own that. And then, you know, share a bit more about my journey and why I connect with these groups and why I've chosen, you know, these specific groups versus others. And, you know, she's seen a lot of my progression, but, like, it was just like this beautiful moment of where I could own it. You know, I could take ownership of this part of myself. And it still was a little weird after that, right? Like, it's taken a little time for, like, my family to, like, catch up to, like, okay, like, Rob's not fucking nuts. But, you know, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no way around it. Like, I just am this person. And you know what? The more I hold myself back, the less I get to be this person too. So, yeah. Because everyone wants me to be me. And even the people who, you know, like, they got issues with it, if you really ask them deep down, they want you to be you. You know? Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to all the people who watched.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how I feel like we got more vulnerable throughout this live, and it really opened up and blossomed. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, it was a really beautiful trinity. It was, I really enjoyed the flow and how it kind of, how it moved and where it moved to. So thank you, and thank you, Vivien, and thank you everybody who's been with us and who is going to be with us in a future now, watching on the replay or on YouTube. You can, if you want to see this again, if you want to, my YouTube channel is In a Piece with Denise. I'm like, shall I share the new one? Not yet. Yeah, where can people get hold of you, Robert?
You know, it's interesting. I'm actually building a YouTube too.
Ah,
But no, I'm mostly just on Facebook right now. Yeah, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, but I don't really have people following me on YouTube and Instagram. If you want to find me, I guess I could link them up on my page. But yeah, no, Facebook for sure.
have you done your YouTube yet?
It's been more of like a data bank, right? I've just
Hmm.
been like saving videos and, you know, things I've played with throughout the years. Um, yeah, it's interesting because I have awareness that I can expand a lot bigger on those platforms. But yeah, Facebook has been a bit of like an incubator, as well as it's a more tight knit community. It's more, you know, like I actually feel the people more. So yeah, it's just it's a bridge to cross. It's just going to take effort, which I think is the thing. It's so easy to just flip on the live on Facebook and just start. So I need to put in more effort. It is that root chakra actually grounding all of this into reality, you know, is such a big theme for me right now. So into the physicality, right? It has form.
Thank you, dear brother.
All right. Love you.
I'm gonna stop the live. Love, everybody. Thank you. Oh, and just to mention, I'll be with Erin Teets on Wednesday at 5 o'clock, so starting half an hour before this one. And for those of you who have heard me mention about fascia, Erin Teets is the lady who I spent so much time with on YouTube, watching all her videos about fascia stretching. So I'm really excited about that. So see you all again on Wednesday. Love.